I can still hear it. 3 knocks. Slow. Patient. It's been 3 nights since Black Hollow. I don't know how long I've been recording. Maybe hours. Maybe minutes. I'm not sure the tape will even hold. But I have to speak before it fades again. Someone needs to know why the signal from this ridge will never stay clean. When you study the earth long enough, you start thinking you understand its rhythms. The hum of tectonics, the pulse of stone, you think it's predictable. Until the sound starts listening back. That's when you realize you've been digging through something alive. I was supposed to be measuring frequencies. Instead, I woke something that remembers them. The first time it knocked, I thought it was just an echo from the seismic plate. 3 dull hits, deep under the soil. But when the lights flickered right after, and the hum of my monitor changed pitch, I knew it wasn't a glitch. Every time I replay the tape, the knocks fall closer, like it's learning the distance between us. I tried leaving, I really did. But the road out of Black Hollow folds back on itself after midnight. The GPS spins, the sky turns to ash, and the forest hums like a power line about to snap. You start seeing your own reflection in the dark. Then it breathes. It doesn't come for sound. It comes for light. The cabin still smells like burnt copper. The breakers melted into the wall. I keep the lamps off, but the recorder's red light is enough. I think it sees that too. It waits for flicker, for pulse, for any sign that something human is still awake in the dark. I didn't mean to wake it. I only touched the switch once. But once is enough. Once, and the ridge will remember you. Maybe the mountain isn't haunted. Maybe it's just hungry. And maybe what it wants is the spark inside us, the part that refuses to stay still. If you ever see the lights flicker near the ridge, don't look outside. I remember how it started. They told me the assignment would take a weekend.
Drive out to Black Hollow Ridge, check the relay station, replace a sensor, and report back to the lab. Simple work, easy data. 2 days, maybe 3. I believed them. Raven's Hollow was the last dot of civilization before the ridge. It wasn't even on most GPS maps, just a strip of asphalt, 2 stores, and a church that leaned like it had given up standing straight. I stopped at Keller's stop to refuel and grab coffee. The air smelled like old pine and wet dust. Inside, a small radio whispered country songs through static, and the ceiling fan ticked like a clock that had forgotten time. Deputy Reeves was leaning against the counter, boots muddy, badge crooked on his jacket. He saw the company tag on my coat and smirked. "You the tech from Duvall's team?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, Eli Marsh." He slid a set of rusted keys across the counter. The tag read, "Cabin, Ridge Access. Don't stay past dusk." He said it like a joke, but his eyes didn't smile. I laughed under my breath. "That bad out there?" Reeves shrugged. "Road gets rough. Signals drop. Folks say the mountain gets twitchy after dark." Define twitchy. He just grinned. The kind of grin that hides behind habit, not humor. "You'll hear it if you do." That was all he said. I paid for my coffee, thanked him, and left. The woman at the register crossed herself as I pushed the door open. I told myself it was just a small-town reflex. Outside, the air was thin and cold. The kind of cold that feels old, like it's been waiting. I loaded the last of my gear into the car and checked the time. 4:32 p.m. If I wanted to reach the ridge before nightfall, I had maybe 90 minutes of light left. The road wound through forest thicker than I'd expected. The farther I drove, the weaker my phone signal became until it vanished entirely. The asphalt turned to gravel, then to dirt, then to something that barely deserved a name. Each mile pulled me deeper into fog that rolled down from the mountains like smoke from an unseen fire. The smell of burned metal clung to the air,
faint but sharp, like a warning written in scent. I passed an old sign on the roadside, half-rotted, paint flaking away. Only 3 letters were still legible. Low. Probably once said Black Hollow. The rest had been eaten by rust. By the time I saw the cabin, the sun was already slipping behind the ridge. It wasn't much: 2 floors, dark wood, a roof patched with tin, and a single wire stretching from the trees to a small breaker box beside the porch. A satellite dish leaned against the siding, crooked and half-buried in leaves. The windows were boarded halfway, like someone had tried to keep something in, or out. I parked beside an old truck that looked like it hadn't moved in years. The air was colder here, the kind of cold that doesn't come from weather but from something hollow underneath. I stood for a minute, listening to the forest. Nothing. No birds, no wind. Just quiet so deep it pressed against my eardrums. Even the engine ticked softly as it cooled, a small sound swallowed by the stillness. Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and oil. Tools hung neatly along one wall. A desk cluttered with notes, coffee rings, and an old map of the ridge sat by the window. The map had small circles drawn in red, each marking a signal drop. One of them was circled twice, with a note scrawled beside it. Deep field interference. Do not adjust. I plugged in my laptop and powered the portable receiver. The lights flickered, dimmed, then steadied. The machine hummed alive, green LED pulsing, readouts scrolled, frequency variance, static, interference level, high. It matched the report. Outside, the trees leaned together like ribs closing around the cabin. Fog slid between them, silver in the fading light. It looked almost liquid. I could hear faint cracks in the forest, wood popping under cold tension. I called Dr. Clara Duval to confirm arrival. The connection buzzed, a thin voice threading through the line. "Eli, you're on site?" "Yeah," I said. "Cabin's functional, power's stable for now. The relay's throwing some weird spikes, though. Could be ground moisture or magnetic drift." "Or something else," she said. I frowned. "You've had anomalies before?" "Small ones. Nothing harmful. Just strange distortions. Record what you can. We'll compare it to past data." I leaned back in the chair, staring at the old breaker box diagram pinned to the wall. I told Clara, "If it's just interference, I'll reset the main line after dark. Temperature drops usually clear it up." She didn't sound convinced. "Fine," she said. "Just don't run the generator past midnight. Locals claim it messes with wildlife." She hesitated, then added, "Keep the lights minimal. We need clean readings." I remember saying, "I'll manage." She answered, soft but firm, "Good. Stay safe." Then the line cut out. Just the low hum left, like it ended itself. The silence that followed felt wrong, like the cabin had been holding its breath the whole time and had finally exhaled. I checked my watch. 6:47 p.m. The last strip of sunlight was gone. Fog rose between the trees, silver and soft like breath. I thought about Reeves's grin and the way he'd said it. Don't stay past dusk. I walked outside for a minute just to stretch my legs. The air was thicker now, carrying a faint metallic tang. I could taste it on my tongue. Far down the slope, a flicker of orange glowed through the fog, like a lantern swaying. I blinked, and it was gone. When I stepped back inside, the generator coughed once, then steadied. I watched the cabin lights ripple across the window. For a second, the reflection doubled, like someone else was standing behind me. When I turned, the room was empty. I told myself it was exhaustion. I'd driven 9 hours straight, my brain buzzing with caffeine and static. The logical part of me listed all the reasons it could have happened. Bad glass, warped surface, maybe my own movement. It didn't help. I sat at the desk and reviewed the last data pull. The readings looked normal, except for one irregular spike that repeated every 7 seconds. Too slow for seismic noise, too steady for wind. I tapped the mic on the receiver and heard a faint delay, like the echo of my own motion replayed through the system. Then a second delay. Then a third. Each quieter than the last, each falling perfectly 3 seconds apart. Outside, a wind started that didn't touch the trees. It hissed, low, like breath across a wire. I muted the system and waited. The sound stopped immediately. I turned the receiver back on. The sound came back. Not wind. Feedback. The mountain was answering. I checked the sensors again. The signal graph dipped, then spiked. A pulse, short but heavy, reverberated through the equipment. The monitor lights dimmed, then returned. A delay of 2 seconds. That kind of delay doesn't happen without interference. I noted it down. 1912, first fluctuation. Then the lamps flickered. Once, twice, then steady again. A surge in power, maybe. Nothing unusual for a place running on an old generator. But when I listened, I thought I heard something faint beneath the hum. 3 dull thuds buried in the static. It could have been the generator frame expanding, could have been my own heartbeat. Still, I wrote it down. 1913. Faint knocks. Source unknown. When I closed my notebook, the lights fluttered once more, like something breathing in rhythm with my pulse. That was when I realized the generator wasn't humming anymore. The first night was when the sound changed. I'd been telling myself all day that it was just another field job. Remote cabin, old equipment, odd readings. Appalachia does that. Mountains breathe, stone shifts, old mines echo.
There's always a reason. But around midnight, the air inside the cabin started to feel crowded. Like something else was listening with me. I was at the desk, headset on, watching the relay feed. The line was clean for almost an hour. Just low earth noise and a soft rumble from the generator out back. Then the graph on my screen dipped, climbed, and flattened. And I heard it. 3 knocks. Not loud, not dramatic. Just 3 heavy pulses, low and slow, coming through the headphones like someone was tapping on the underside of the mountain. I replayed it. Same thing. 3 knocks. Exactly spaced. I zoomed the waveform, checked the timing. 3.6 seconds between each. Too even to be random. I muttered, "Could be resonance," and wrote it down like it was nothing. 0030, 3 low pulses. Likely ground interference. But it didn't feel like interference. It felt intentional. Sounds from the earth don't wait. These did. A few minutes later, the generator coughed. Not a full stop, just a stutter. The lights in the cabin dimmed, brightened, then settled into a thin yellow. I grabbed my flashlight and went outside to check the line. The fog had gotten thicker. It wrapped the cabin up to the windowsills. When I stepped onto the porch, the board sounded way too loud. Every footstep bounced back at me. I could hear my own breath. The power cable ran from the wall, across the ground, to a concrete post where the breaker box sat. I swept the light over it. That's when I saw the metal plate. It was bolted onto the side of the box, rust around the screws, words punched in by hand. "Don't switch the breaker after midnight." I stood there a second, just breathing steam in the cold. Who writes a rule like that on a main power line? If it was about overload, they'd write amperage, not a time. This didn't sound like an engineer's rule. It sounded like a warning. I took a picture anyway. My phone screen flashed. The fog around the post rippled, like the light made it flinch. The headset on my collar crackled. "Eli, you still on?" It was Clara. Her voice was thin, like it was coming through water. "Yeah, I'm here," I said. "I'm looking at the breaker. You ever hear about a time restriction on it?" "Time restriction?" Static chewed her words. "No, we never put anything like that. It says don't switch after midnight." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Locals?" "Probably." "Then don't," she said. "They live there. We don't." The line dipped again. "Clara?" No answer. Just a long hiss, then the channel closed itself. I turned the flashlight back toward the tree line. The beam didn't go far. The fog just swallowed it. But for a second, I thought I saw something darker in there. Not moving, just standing where the fog started. I stared too long. My eyes started filling in shapes. I forced myself to look away. Back inside, the cabin felt warmer but not safer. I set the flashlight down, put the headset back on, and replayed the last feed. The knocks were still there. I took the low-band filter down. Beneath the knocks, something else sat in the noise. A low, slow draw of air, like breathing. It matched the timing of mine. I stopped breathing. The sound on the feed kept going. I lowered the volume. The breathing didn't fade. It just kept its own pace. "Okay," I said under my breath. "That's not funny." I checked the time. 12:14 a.m., which meant I was already past the rule on the metal plate, which meant I'd read it too late. I walked to the window and looked out. The glass showed me my own reflection first. Tired eyes, headset, the yellow lamp behind me. Then, for just a heartbeat, it showed something else behind me. Taller, thinner, like a shadow stretched out. I spun around. The room was empty. I went back to the desk and powered down the receiver to reboot it. The sound didn't stop. It took me a second to understand that. I had turned off every audio source in the room. The laptop, the relay line, the receiver, the comms. And I could still hear it. 3 knocks. Very faint. Very close. It was coming from the wall. The cabin wasn't well insulated. You could hear wind crawl along the boards. But this wasn't wind. This was pressure. Like someone pressing their fist against the outside wall and dragging sound through it. I stared at the paneling. Dust trembled along the shelf. The coffee cup on the table shook, rolled, and fell on its side. I sat very still. The generator outside went completely quiet. The silence that followed was heavy. You don't hear silence like that in cities. This was mountain silence. Old, waiting, listening. My headset crackled again. "Eli? Eli, are you there?" I swallowed. "Clara, I am. I'm getting weird knocks on the wall now, not from the line." Her voice came back, but not right. Too slow, too stretched. "Don't switch the breaker." My fingers went numb. That wasn't Clara. That was my earlier sentence, played back wrong. I pulled the headset off. For maybe 30 seconds, nothing moved. The laptop screen glowed. The lamp hummed. My own pulse was too loud in my ears. Then something scraped along the outer wall. Starting from the back of the cabin, moving toward the front. Slow, heavy, like claws dragging on old wood. I turned the lamp off. The room dipped into blue from the laptop. I watched the door. Footsteps. Not on the porch, in the dirt. Circling. I could hear breathing again, but not from the recording, from outside. Through the gaps. I reached down, unplugged the laptop, and held my breath. The breathing stopped. I waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Knock. Not from the ground this time. Knock. Not from the wall this time. Knock. From the door. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. It was patient. So I was too.
After a while, the knocks didn't repeat. But I knew, right there, this wasn't equipment noise. This wasn't a relay glitch.
Something outside had heard the power, had seen the light, and had come close to make sure something inside was awake. And the worst part? I was. I didn't sleep. The morning after the knocks, everything felt thin. The air, the light, even the sound of my breath. The ridge was quiet again, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that waits for you to make the first move. I made coffee, though it tasted like rust. Sat down at the desk, opened the recorder logs, and that's when I noticed it. The same shape repeating over and over again. 3 peaks, always 3. I stared at the graphs until the lines blurred. Each one the same rhythm, the same spacing. Whatever it was doing it on purpose. I could almost hear it again in my head, slow, deliberate, patient. Knock, knock, knock. I rubbed my eyes and told myself, it's just the equipment echoing back. But I didn't believe it. I took my notebook and started to write, more out of habit than anything. Okay, I said to myself. First rule, don't stay past dusk. Second, don't touch the breaker after midnight. I hesitated before the third. The words came before the thought did. If you hear 3 knocks, don't answer the light. I froze, staring at what I'd just written. My hand was trembling a little. It wasn't something I'd meant to say. It was like the rule already existed and I just remembered it. I looked up at the cabin window. The morning fog outside had started to thin, but it still hung low along the tree line. I turned off the lamp just to see if the light had been what it wanted last night. Nothing happened. The silence stayed, but somehow that was worse. I started checking the data again, this time looking at temperature. At 11:40 p.m., the cabin had been about 50 degrees inside. By midnight, 44. 6 degrees gone without a reason. The heater was still running, the power stable. The warmth had just vanished. I said it out loud, mostly to fill the air. Every time the light's on, it gets cold. Then softer. Every time it gets cold, it knocks. That sentence felt heavy, like I shouldn't have said it. I grabbed my phone. No signal, same as before. Still, I tried to call Clara through the satellite line. The connection clicked once, then held. Clara? You there? At first, I thought it was working. Then I heard it, slow breathing, close to the mic. Too close. Clara, say something! No words came back. Just the inhale, the exhale. Deep, deliberate. Then static swallowed it whole. I pulled the phone from my ear and stared at it like it might blink. It didn't. For a few minutes I just sat there, listening to the cabin. The wood creaked, the coffee cooled, and somewhere out in the ridge a crow called once and went silent. I felt small. Not scared exactly, just small. Like the world had decided to stop noticing I existed. Around noon I went outside to check the generator. The plate on the breaker box was still there. Don't switch the breaker after midnight. The letters were so deep the metal bent inward. Someone had carved it like they were begging whoever came next not to make the same mistake. I ran my hand over the edge and said quietly, "Noted." Back inside, I started talking to myself again. Let's think this through. Light goes on, air goes cold. Cold brings knocks. Knocks bring... I stopped. I didn't want to finish the chain. I flipped the notebook open again and talked while writing. When the lights come on, it reacts. When the air drops, it starts knocking. When it knocks, something's near the window. I leaned back, staring at those words. It sounded less like science and more like a trap I'd stepped into.
Later that afternoon, I tried sending a ping to the relay near Raven's Hollow. No return signal. It was like the mountain swallowed it whole. Not a glitch, not static, nothing. Like the air itself refused to carry sound anymore. I muttered, "You're isolating me, aren't you?" The moment I said it, the floor gave a tiny vibration. I felt it through my boots. One slow pulse, almost like an answer. By sunset, I was running on coffee and nerves. I hadn't heard the knocks again, but the silence around the cabin had turned thick. I could almost feel where sound should have been. I told myself I'd record one last set, just to understand the pattern. I set the recorder near the window, the second mic by the wall that had knocked before, and kept my laptop screen dim. If it was reacting to light, I didn't want to give it too much. The sun went down fast. One moment there was gray, the next there was nothing. I turned on the lamp. The air dropped. Instantly. Cold brushed over my arms like static. I watched my breath fog in front of me. And then, right on cue, 3 knocks. Same rhythm, same spacing. Precise. Practiced. I could hear it through the wall mic, the dull thud rolling through the cabin like a heartbeat. Knock, knock, knock. My pulse matched it without meaning to. Then came the breathing. Not through the mic this time, not through any speaker. Just in the air. Low and dry, like someone standing right behind me. I whispered, "You can hear me, can't you?" The breathing changed, slowed to match mine, perfectly. I stopped breathing. The sound kept going for one more inhale, then stopped too. The silence that followed felt alive. I reached for the lamp switch, and before my hand even touched it, the breathing returned. Faster this time, desperate. Like it didn't want me to leave it in the dark. I turned the lamp off anyway. The temperature rose by a few degrees, the sound faded, and just like that, the pattern reset. Light, cold, knocks, breath. I wrote the sequence down again, this time as words instead of numbers. It read more like a confession than a study. And then I added one more line. It learns. I didn't realize I'd said it aloud until I heard a faint echo repeat it back, half a beat late. It learns. That made me drop the pen. I turned the recorder on again, only this time I didn't say anything. I just breathed. Slow. Even. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. On the third breath, the playback started on its own. The recorder was mirroring me, but there was another voice mixed in, low and grainy. A man's voice, breathing with me, half a second behind. Like a shadow trying to stay in sync. I slammed the stop button. My phone screen lit up again. No service, just the reflection of my face in the black glass. And behind me, in that reflection, 2 orange points glowed faintly in the window. Too high to be a lantern, too steady to be fire. I didn't turn. I just watched them in the reflection, my own breath shaking the glass. Rule 3 was right, I whispered. If you hear 3 knocks, don't answer the light. The glow flickered once, then it was gone. The window pane was left fogged with frost, the cabin quiet. Only the faint hum of the generator, like something still breathing deep underground. I closed the notebook and stared at the last line. Light, cold, knocks, breath. It wasn't just a pattern anymore. It was a heartbeat, and it was learning mine. Light, cold, knocks, breath. A simple loop, a bad one, but still a loop. But loops tighten when you think they're safe. It started the next night, sometime after midnight. I couldn't tell the exact time because the clock on the laptop froze at 12:17 a.m. and decided to stay there. No error, no system warning, just 12:17 a.m. forever. I checked my watch. 12:24. Then 12:31. The laptop still said 12:17. That was the first sign that it wasn't just reacting to me. It was holding me there. I had the recorder on low gain just to catch any knocks. The cabin was dark except for the laptop screen. I didn't dare turn on the lamp again unless I had to. My notes were open beside me. I kept reading the rules like reading them out loud would make them stronger. Don't stay past dusk. Don't switch the breaker after midnight. If you hear 3 knocks, don't answer the light. I said them like a prayer. Outside, the generator was quieter than usual. Too quiet. It made me nervous, so I turned the monitor volume up just a little. That's when I heard myself. Not from inside my own head, from the speakers. My voice, from earlier in the day, saying, "When the lights come on, it reacts." Then half a second later, the same sentence, lower, rougher, like it was being dragged through gravel. I froze. I hadn't hit playback. The recorder had done it on its own. "No," I whispered. "We're not doing that." I reached to shut the program down. The program didn't close. Instead, the audio glitched, then played another piece of me. "It learns." Then the same line echoed back, but not in my voice. "It learns." That second one wasn't right. It wasn't Clara either. It was a male voice, older, breathy, and too close to the mic. Like someone was inside the wall, repeating what I said into the wiring. I yanked the headphones off. For a full minute I sat completely still, listening. Rain? No. Wind? No. Just the deep, slow hum under the floorboards, like something bigger than the cabin was breathing. I checked the time again. Laptop, 12:17. Watch, 12:43. "Okay," I said, "so you can copy now." The worst part was that it made sense. If it could mimic breathing, it could mimic speech. And if it could mimic speech, it could fake a voice I trusted. That meant any call I got, any sound I heard through the line, I couldn't trust it. I needed to shut the power down so it couldn't ride the circuit anymore, but the breaker was outside, and it was past midnight. I stared at the door for a long time. The plate on the box flashed in my memory. "Don't switch the breaker after midnight." I argued with myself out loud. It's just a safety rule. It's old. It's for surge control. I can flip it, kill the line, reset. This is stupid. Then another part of me said, quieter, "But what if it's not?" The lamp flickered even though I hadn't turned it on. The laptop dimmed, then brightened again. Something was playing with the load. I grabbed the flashlight, but I didn't turn it on yet. I cracked the door open just an inch. The fog was back. Not spread out like before, closer, hugging the porch, stuffed between the rails. And it glowed faintly, like there was a light source somewhere inside it. I listened. Nothing. So I opened the door the rest of the way and stepped out. The cold was immediate and deep. Not the kind of cold that freezes skin. This went straight through the ribs. The boards under my feet were damp, and in the distance, the trees were just dark teeth against a darker sky. I clicked the flashlight on. The beam barely pushed through the fog. I kept it low, aimed at the ground, and walked along the wall toward the breaker box. Halfway there, the generator gave a long, low groan. Then everything went dark. The porch, the cabin, the trees, even the weak light from the laptop inside. All of it, gone. My flashlight was the only light left, and the air got colder. I could feel it behind me before I heard it. The weight in the fog, the way sound bent around something tall. Slow steps in the dirt,
too heavy to be human. I didn't turn around. I focused on the metal post where the breaker sat. I reached it, wiped away the thin frost, and saw the words again up close. Don't switch the breaker after midnight. The letters looked wetter now, like the cold had made them sweat. I just need to cut the power, I whispered. That's all. Something exhaled behind me. Not wind, not an animal. A real exhale, long, cold, and full of the smell of soot and old metal. My flashlight beam trembled across the post. I had two choices: disobey the rule and maybe kill whatever conduit it was riding, or obey the rule and let it stay in the line with me all night. I pulled the panel open. The fog around me rippled. The breathing got louder. I took a breath, reached for the switch, and a voice said, right behind my left ear, "Don't." Not shouted, not angry, just firm, and it was my voice. I froze so hard my fingers hurt. It repeated, closer, like its mouth was right beside mine. "Don't flip it." My throat tightened. "You're not me." Silence. Then, in the exact tone Clara uses when she's annoyed, "Eli, leave it." That almost got me. Almost. But what saved me was that Clara never calls me just Eli. She says, "Eli, hey," or "Eli, listen." This one didn't. It just copied words. I slammed the panel shut. The breathing stopped. For about 3 seconds. Then the knocking started. Not on the cabin, not on the door, on the ground. 3 dull impacts in the dirt beside me, heavy enough to vibrate up through my feet. I backed toward the porch, flashlight drifting up without me meaning to. That's when I saw it. At first I thought it was a burned tree in the fog, tall, black, wrong. Then the beam caught bone, pale, curved, branching, antlers. The rest of it stayed in shadow, but I could see the height, taller than the porch roof, shoulders too narrow for something that big, and where its eyes should have been, 2 weak orange points, like coals dying in a stove. The light hit it and the air dropped another 5 degrees. I stumbled back onto the porch. It didn't rush, it just watched. The steps creaked under me as I went inside and shut the door. I didn't lock it because I didn't think a lock meant anything to something that could breathe through walls. Inside, the cabin lights were on again. I hadn't turned them on. The laptop was back to 12:17. I stood in the middle of the room, breathing hard, flashlight still in my hand, trying to calm down. I told myself, "You saw it. You finally saw it. It's real. You're not losing it." Then the recorder turned itself on. The red light blinked, the screen lit, and it started playing back the last 5 minutes. My voice. "I just need to cut the power." My whisper. "You're not me." The other voice. "Don't flip it." The other voice again, now layered with static. "Don't. Don't. Don't." I slammed the stop key. It kept playing. "Don't. Don't. Don't." The sound filtered through the cabin, bouncing off wood, off glass, off me. I ripped the power from the laptop. The laptop stayed on. That's when I realized it wasn't using my power anymore. It was using its own. I backed away from the desk and went to the window. It was still out there. I couldn't see the whole thing, but I could see the orange eyes. They were farther apart than a man's. Too high. Too steady. Watching the house like it was waiting for me to make the next move, I whispered to myself. Rule 4. Don't listen when it speaks in your voice. I hadn't written that one down yet. I just knew it now. The recorder finally stopped. The cabin went quiet again. I sat down on the floor with my back against the wall, knees up, flashlight off.
I didn't want to show it any more light. I listened for its steps. Nothing. A minute passed, then another. I started to think, maybe it left. That's when the knocking came again. But this time it wasn't on the wall, and it wasn't on the ground. It was inside the cabin. 3 slow knocks from the other side of the bedroom door. It's morning now, I think, or something pretending to be morning. I'm recording this because silence doesn't help anymore. I've been awake since the knocking stopped, or maybe it hasn't stopped. It's hard to tell what's real now. The clocks don't move. The generator hum is gone. Even the air feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for me to speak first. The cabin smells like cold iron and ash. My hands are shaking while I hold the recorder. I've replayed everything that happened last night, again and again, and it all ends the same way. 3 knocks, then nothing. I keep thinking about the rules. I wrote them to protect myself, but now they feel like a cage. I can't step outside, can't turn on the light, can't even trust my own voice anymore. I hear it sometimes, not from the woods, from inside. Quiet, low. It says my name the way I say it, with the same breath at the end. The first time I answered, it laughed. Just once, short, like a cough from the dark. Don't listen when it speaks in your voice. I didn't write that one down, but I should have. I think about Clara. I don't know if she's still out there, if she ever got my messages. Maybe she's listening to this now, trying to make sense of the data, wondering what happened to me. If she is, tell her it's not a signal problem. It's not interference. It's something that learns through sound. It learns who listens. Outside, the fog hasn't lifted for hours. The light through it is orange, weak, like sunset trapped in a jar. Every now and then it flickers, not lightning, just the ridge breathing. My notes are still open on the desk. The last thing I wrote was a question. What happens if I stop listening? I don't think I'll get to finish the answer. The recorder light keeps blinking on its own. I turn it off, it turns back on. I moved it to the far side of the room and I swear I can still hear it clicking. Something inside the walls clicks back. I don't have energy left to run. Or maybe that's the point. Maybe it waits until you're too tired to care. I keep the curtains closed now. The orange light still seeps through the edges. It's faint, but it finds me. I can feel it pulsing against my skin, like a heartbeat that isn't mine. I just want quiet. If anyone finds this, don't come to Black Hollow. Don't try to study it. Don't bring light. The fog outside is glowing again. I think it wants me to stop talking. 3 knocks. Not from the door this time, from the recorder.